I decided we need more manga, specifically about being trans or on the topic of gender. So I once again deep dived into the hellhole of the internet to find you some amazing manga about gender and about being trans. Nozu Nosi starts with our main character Tao and his team losing a baseball game. The punishment for this is dressing up as cheerleaders. While we see them getting dressed, Tao comments on how nice it feels wearing the dress. And when they're walking back on the field, one of the opposing team members points at Tao and his friend, saying, "It is unfair. They have two real girls helping them cheer." They point out though that Tao is biologically a man, while the others are freaking out over it. Tao can't help but to feel great about being mistaken for a woman. Returning home, we find out a little bit more about Tao's home life. His dad loves his son so much, not only watching every game, but also going out of his way to make big meals so he can grow big and strong to be amazing at baseball. We also get to meet Tao's sister, Kana, who is also a lot more masculine. She likes darker clothes and overall is a bit more boyish of a girl. After dinner, Tao goes to the toilet and discovers that he no longer has a penis. He has somehow transformed into a biological woman. You know what's also cool about being trans and reading manga? You can talk about it with me on stream. Hi, I'm Szycrotic. I'm also a streamer and you should go follow me on Twitch. I think Nozu Nosi is a good manga that explores gender and expectations from parents in both kids and their assigned genders. Like how Tao is told to be more manly and how Kana is told to be more girly. And even though they don't love their parents doing this, they don't necessarily fault them either. But like kids do, they put question marks on everything regarding gender roles. And I love that. One of my favorite parts in this manga was when the brother and sister was taken for clothes shopping, and before leaving, they decided to talk to each other. Kana asking Tao what she would like, and Tao asking Kana what she would like. Though, we can't have all nice things. There are, much like almost every single manga when it comes to being trans, a lot of awkward panels or even full-on chapters. Like Kana walking into the bathroom while her brother, before switching genders, is taking a shower or at the toilet. I get that she is supposed to be more masculine and kind of more not kind of caring, but just because you are cis male or more masculine doesn't mean that you don't respect people's privacy or don't like your own privacy. Not only that, but there is also just a lot of focus on sex in general, even showing Tao thinking of men in a sexual context, which in the Japanese world is not a super common thing, so I really liked it. But it makes it super awkward for the readers that there is so much and sometimes very graphic panels showing Tao testing things out because these are pre-puberty kids. It doesn't matter how much in context or in the story it makes sense, when at the end of the day, this is a story about kids exploring gender and sexuality, and you gotta read everything and see everything, especially when one of the chapters is quite literally just about jerking off. Nozu Nomi is a manga that, though it explores gender, expectations, and sexuality in a very true-to-life sort of way, it is a very annoying and awkward experience to read at times, as there is a lot of focus on sex, and as mentioned previously, these are kids. Besides all that though, I do really like how the manga explores both sides of the gender spectrum instead of just the feminine side. And I think if you're in the market and you can get past some of the more awkward panels, you can have a lot of fun with this one. Until I Become Me. You follow Akira-kun, who is a classic schoolboy, loves sports, action cartoons, and is a bit of a bully, who's quite harsh against the girls. One day, he goes to bed and wakes up as a woman. According to the doctors, he has gone through idiopathic sex change syndrome, which I wish was a real thing, which has overnight turned Akira into a biological woman. Returning back to school, Akira gets a taste of her own medicine. The school telling the whole class what has happened, and the boys, much like Akira has done to others, starts pulling her pants down, making fun of her. And honestly, I love this, and it would have been amazing to show other people who may be bullies reading this that this can happen to you too at any time, until the chapter becomes uncomfortable. The The boys drag Akira into the bathroom and then proceeds to undress her and sniff her underwear. And I'm going to be brutally honest here. This was so fucking disgusting. I almost quit reading right there. But there is sadly not enough manga out there about being trans or the trans experience, so I kept reading. After not being able to adapt to the new way of life at her old school, Akira and her mom moves to the countryside with her grandma. Here, Akira gets sent to the new school and introduced as a girl right from the start. First day at the new school, Akira is getting an earful from one of the other girls. The girl pointing at Akira, saying that her hair is too short and she's wearing the wrong clothes. This is where we meet Rumi-san. She steps up for Akira, telling the girls off, and from that point, Akira and Rumi are best friends, and a little more. I really liked Until I Become Me, but it still suffers from a lot of the same criticism that I have been talking about in this video and in a previous video. Almost right at the start, Akira is sexualized by her classmates, and even to some degree herself, which I honestly am so tired of. You can argue and say, well, this is just how women are viewed in our society, and I can't technically help but agreeing with you. But I don't think having kids drawn in these situations is the best way to go about it. Not that this doesn't happen to kids, but it's so hard to read for the reader that it just makes it very awkward, uncomfortable, and to some people probably impossible to enjoy and even learn anything from. Besides that though, I did love this manga. Seeing Akira go through a female puberty is something I really envied and also loved seeing. As a trans femme woman myself, I of course will never and have never gone through that, so I got to kind of experience it and see it from someone else's perspective, which I highly appreciate. I also appreciate that Akira and I would react in a very similar manner when certain things happen. I also love how Akira and Rumi's friendship and eventual relationship is just ever growing. It has ups and downs, but it also has real moments. Moments that if you are in a relationship, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody who is trans, you will 100% relate to. All in all, I think it's a great story, and as long as you can get past the first 2 chapters and a couple other panels, you will have a nice love story with some amazing moments that are both real and wholesome. For the third manga, I couldn't find what I was looking for. I wanted to recommend a manga that was on the topic of gender, and in a dream world the character also would be trans, but it wasn't the main story. I wanted a completely separate story and a trans character that was just in it instead of that's the main story. But I couldn't really find anything. That's when I went back to my other manga video and I saw this comment telling me to read The Ghost Tower. 23rd of June, 1952. At 11:53, a 60-year-old Fujima Tatsu was murdered by her adopted daughter, Rika, the clock tower being used to twist her old frail body until she died. 2 years later, we meet Amano, who is sleeping on the floor surrounded by dirty Playboy magazines, expired food, and with rent overdue. After a rude awakening, he leaves to sell some of his old books to see if he could maybe cover his rent. After getting paid less than what he wanted, he decided to just spend the pennies on a few more dirty magazines. He couldn't pay rent anyway. When walking home, Amano sees his old classmate and crush, Madonna Hanazo. After a quick catch-up, we learn that Madonna is going to marry the school bully, who is now rich and very successful. In a heat of jealousy and rage, Amano blurts out that he's also rich and that he's also about to get married. Being caught mid-lie, this dude suddenly shows up, telling Amano that he's here to pick him up. After being rescued by this smooth, very handsome man, Amano defaults into self-pity. After a short drive with this handsome fella, Amano sees he has been taken to the dreaded Ghost Tower. Amano asks why he has been brought here, and the handsome man tells him, well, I wanted to apply for this management position, but thought maybe you could use it. Amano thinks about it for a little bit, and the handsome man lets Amano know that there is a reason they need new management. There's a rumor that the tower is haunted by the old woman who was killed 2 years ago, and that the last management had quit. The handsome guy, before driving off, lets Amano know that there should be somebody in the back that he can speak to. Amano goes to apply for the position, and like a moth to the flame, he has to check out the old tower. Not soon entering, Amano finds himself at the top, looking at the old gears that's been stuck for 2 years, when he suddenly... Amano opens his eyes to see he is strapped to the clock tower, like the old woman was 2 years ago. And to his horror, he feels the clock that has not moved in 2 years suddenly is moving now, twisting his body. Amano, unable to move, unable to scream, thinks to himself, will I die? Will I really die like that old woman did? With tears in his eyes, Amano looks down for what he thinks is the last time and sees the handsome man again. The handsome man quickly grabs a ladder and makes his way up to Amano and lets him know that he will help him and will get him down if Amano joins him. After some back and forth, Amano learns that this handsome man has way too much information on Amano, and also that the clock tower is actually a giant safe, said to hold several billions. Amano, unable to really say no in this situation, both to the money and to the help, says yes. On the car ride back home, we finally get to know that the handsome man's name is Sawamura Tetsu, and that joining this treasure hunt is no safe task. As we get to know, once they arrive at Amano's house, they see it burn down. After a quick shower at Sawamura's place, Amano points out that Sawamura must be very rich for having a house this huge. Sawamura blankly states that, nope, he is broke. He tells Amano to get comfortable as he walks into the bathroom to have a bath, and in the next panel, we finally get to see that the very handsome Sawamura is actually a woman. I love this so much. I am a huge fan of dark topics and stories in general, so this was a perfect fit for me. Since it is set in the 1950s, it makes complete sense why Sawamura is hiding her gender. But the real star of this show is the doubt from Amano, not only in Sawamura's intention, but in almost any other character as well. Not only is the mystery about the treasure and the murders so interesting, but also how Sawamura uses her gender and wits to her advantage as well. You really get to see how women was treated back then from this point of view, and it's so interesting and a little frustrating when you know that this is set in the 50s and stuff like this is still happening to women every day. But all in all, even though this is not a story about being trans, it is an amazing manga, not only for the gore and the story itself, but it also is great to see how gender can affect how people view you, both when they are and when they are not in the know of who you really are. Even though I ended up not finding manga about being trans exclusively, making this video showed me that being trans does not have to be the actual topic to make it, one, into something interesting gender and sexuality wise, and two, you can find commentary and good stories on gender and sexuality in way more manga than I realized, which I like to think is the manga authors and artists hiding their support for the LGBT in plain sight.